pastor's prayer group that eventually became known as the Churches One in North Brevard started in 2004. A local pastor called me and three others together, and it was primarily as a result of crisis. They announced that the space shuttle program was going to be closed. We live on the Space Coast. We're 30 miles east of Orlando, right adjacent to the Kennedy Space Center. So this brother was saying, how are we going to minister to our people? Our churches are going to be drastically affected. Ultimately, over the next 3 to 5 years, there were 8,000 jobs that were eliminated here on the Space Coast, many of them high-paying jobs. So it was really crisis that brought us together to pray. We didn't have any other agenda, but it was just to seek the Lord and to inquire of God as to where do we go from here. Obviously, economically, it really impacted our community, and that was a great concern for us. So we began to pray, and on a weekly basis, and eventually, other pastors heard that we were praying. Ultimately, I should tell you that group grew to over 50 pastors. In many ways, the passage in 2 Chronicles 20 comes to my mind where Jehoshaphat says, we've got no power against this enemy. Certainly with the shutdown of the space shuttle program, we can't fix this. And our community is really being impacted. And secondly, with Jehoshaphat, we said, we don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. So we began to pray.
At the time this thing started breaking out here, the city was in just bankrupt. The Space Center had shut down, and they actually had a YouTube video making fun of Titusville, mocking it. They were calling it the loser city. Who would ever want to come to Titusville? And I got to thinking about that, and God gave me a word when we were down at Dunklin one time he asked me, about that passage about can these bones live? And he says, same principle, can Titusville still live? Is there any hope for Titusville? Is it really a loser city? It's a valley of dry bones, but is God big enough to do something in such a place? I brought that to the pastors as one of the things that I got, and we prayed through that, and I believe, within just a couple more years, this city did a complete miraculous thing, going from a deadness, and it just came alive. And before there was businesses and houses just sitting around empty, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, even without the Space Center blossoming again, it just took off, and the city came back alive. I believe that was due to several factors, but I believe personally one of the big ones was that the Churches One came together and we just went to war for our city.
The mayor of our city, he said this. He said the most important meeting that takes place is the pastor's prayer meeting on Wednesday morning, because we're praying for the mayor. We're praying for government officials. We're praying for law enforcement, first responders. We're praying for teachers and for the schools and so on, all coming out of that. But we're also praying for an economic recovery. And now, some years down the road, we've seen that happen.
But I believe it's there's something that happened here that God did that was one of those historical things that you'll just never know how far-reaching it was and how big of an impact it was. And it could happen anywhere.
I hope Wesley's prophecy or prediction that the gospel inherently has the seeds of its own destruction, because often what happens, and they saw it in England as well, that when God really blessed a community, that they forgot about him. And I hope and pray that what we're enjoying right now, with the pressure off, especially economically, that we don't forget who the source of that blessing really is.